Hello YouTube, so this is Shakur. This is my first time making a video regarding the Arduino and electronic stuff. Today we're gonna make our own library. The idea behind making your own library is when you have a very large bunch of code, which you're gonna use it in multiple projects. So instead of just copying, pasting large code and all kinds of stuff, you're just gonna put it in a library and you can use the functions from there. So I'm gonna demonstrate how to do that. We're basically gonna make a library that will toggle a pin and turn off or on the pin. This is the very basic library gonna make. You don't need the library to do that, but just in order to demonstrate and show you how to make a library, this is the way we're gonna go. So in order to do that, you need two files. The first file is going to be it was going to end with h.h and the second is .cpp. So in the Arduino IDE, we will go to a new tab. Here we're going to type the library name, which is going to be when we're going to include it. In our case, it's going to be LEDops operations.h, and the other file is going to be LEDops.cpp. Okay, looks good. So now, basically, these two files are it works in that way. The H file consists in the declarations of all the functions and all the variables that we're gonna use. The CPP is gonna include all the implementation of these functions or the use of these variables that we declared in the H file. So I'm gonna assume that you know very basic on C++. So we're gonna start at that. If not define the LEDops, define LEDops. Okay. And next we're gonna do the end if LEDops. Okay. We're also gonna include the Arduino.h, which is a library that includes all the pin names and special functions like the pin mode and this kind of stuff, and in order to use them in our library. So our library actually uses another library. So okay, so we're gonna create a class which is gonna be called the LED. This is actually the object that we're gonna use in order to use the functions of our library. So it's gonna be class LED. So we're gonna have a private section, which will include the pin names and which will include the pin name actually. We're gonna have a public, which will include the functions, actual functions. So basically, we need a constructor and a toggle function just to toggle a LED pin, just the basics. And a function to turn on or turn off. This is the basic we're gonna do. So let's start in the constructor. So the constructor actually is the same name as the class name, LED. The constructor will actually take the pin and pin, which is the number of the pin we want to toggle or turn on or off. We're gonna have a function that will not return anything, the void toggle, LED, which will take nothing. Okay. Let's do it as a void. We have another function which will turn on the LED, which will basically not return anything. So void LED off. Also void, and void LED on, which is also a void. So constructor, yeah, and this is a toggle function. Yeah, the names are pretty clear, so there's no need to write comments, but it'll be better. We have here an error. This is void. Okay, so in the private section, we're gonna have after we call the constructor, I want actually to save the pin that we're gonna work on in this class. So it's gonna be int LED pin. Okay, great. So far so good. So here we have in our H file, we have all our declarations. We have declared 4 functions, the constructor, and 3 more functions, which is the LED toggle, LED off, and the LED on. Okay, and in the private section we have the LED pin that we're gonna actually store the value that is given to us, which is the actual pin that we want to toggle. So we go to the CPP to implement these functions. So basically we need to include the LEDops.h, and here we paste our functions. So these functions are from class LED. Again, I'm assuming that you already know in C++, at least the basic. And LED. Okay. You know what? I want to show you something else. I want to show you something, because here we have simple functions. So, okay. I don't want these. I want to show you something else later on. Okay, so here we have our function, which is the constructor, and here we have our toggle. Okay, only for simplicity reasons, I'm not gonna check the pin if it's a good value. When I mean a good value, I mean that the Arduino Uno has from 0 to 13 IO pins. So if we are given 40 or 50, this is not a valid pin. So we cannot actually use that. So if we do a to-do list, to-do, okay, so to-do must check if the pin is a value, if the pin is a valid pin on our board. Okay, great. Assuming that we already checked that, so let's say that the pin is going to be an output. We're going to toggle it. So pin mode, which is the pin, is going to be an output. And also we want to save that actual pin that's selected in our class. So basically we should have done it like that way, equal the pin. So here we saved the given pin in our class variable, and we said that that pin that is saved, we want to set it as an output. And in the toggle function, we're basically gonna do a very simple thing to toggle a pin. So digitalWrite, assuming that I don't know the initial state of the LED, so I cannot tell it go on or off. What I'm gonna do is something like that. I'm gonna tell it write to the pin, which is the LED pin, what value is gonna be the complement of what I'm gonna read from that value. So actually it's gonna be done like the following: digital read what pin, the pin that I want to toggle, read the value, and give me the complement of the value, because we're actually toggling, which means that when the LED is on, I want it to be off, and when the LED is off, I want it to be on. So this is basically how I'm gonna toggle the pin. Okay, great. So here we toggle the pin. Here I have the two functions now. When you have a very small function like the LED off or on, or even the toggle, you can actually write the function in the header file, in the H file. So basically how you do that is in the following. So we do the following: digitalWrite. This is the pin that we actually want to write to, and it's gonna be low. And the same thing on the on, but instead of low, it's gonna be high. Okay, so far so good. Let's test if our code has compiled good. Good. We have no errors. Our code is by far is okay. The syntax is correct. Let's actually test it. So in the INO file, in the actual code that you're gonna use your library, we're gonna include the library. So it's gonna be like that: include the library name, which is LEDops.h. Okay, and we're gonna create our library object from class LED, which is gonna be, let's call it LED1, and we're gonna give it LED number 13, because on the Arduino here we have an LED number 13 which is already on board. There it is. It's already off, so let's say the following. So LED number, we get the constructor LED number 13. Let's say LED1 dot LED on. Okay, so we turned on the LED, and let's wait for let's say 3 seconds before we start blinking our LED. And in the loop, all we want to do is LED1 dot toggle. I don't remember how we wrote the function, which is the toggle LED. There it is, toggle LED. And delay, let's say 20 microseconds. Milliseconds, sorry. This is milliseconds, not in microseconds. Sorry, guys. We are waiting here 20 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds. Okay, great. So let's run the code. Here's the Arduino. We're uploading. Okay, so the LED is on. 3 seconds, and now it's supposed to start blinking. Okay, great. So as you see, guys, here we have our LED blinking, or actually blinking. So we have verified that our library is actually working, and the code we wrote is correct. So I'm gonna make a brief explain again. So as we said, we have two files, the header file and the CPP file. The header file mostly consists of declaration and of the functions and the variables. You can also implement some functions when they are very small in code, which is better as a developer. In the CPP, you actually have your big functions, which is the implementation of the functions. We have our constructor, we have our function. As I said, these things, I'm assuming that you already know the basic in C++. And there you have it. There's the use of libraries in Arduino. This is a very basic video. I believe that in the following videos, we're gonna dig deep into the libraries. We're gonna use something like big libraries. We're gonna create our own big libraries, which will include more sensors and more complicated stuff. This is just the basic, just an introduction to libraries in the Arduino. I hope, guys, that this video helped you a lot. Please feel free to tell me how the video was, suggestions where to improve, because this is the first time I'm doing something in that way. I hope you enjoyed. My name is Anis Shakur again. Thank you, and bye bye.